The story is told in much the same way that all legendary stories are told. There are two protagonists, Reznikoff and Diabolos. Reznikoff was large, dark, swarthy, ugly, and Diabolos was a Greek. He was fine-featured, he was fair-haired, sensitive. Reznikoff was in love with a serving girl at the pub at the Care Howell Hotel and Pub on University Avenue. He and she had decided that they would eventually get married and that they would go out west and get a piece of land that was on offer from the Dominion government. And in order to facilitate that, Reznikoff took a large portion of his weekly salary, gave it to her to put away. At the same time, unbeknownst to Reznikoff, Diabolos was falling in love with this nameless woman. The workmen, fellow workmen, knew of the rivalry between them for this woman that was unknown to them, and so they taunted Reznikoff with the fact that Diabolos was in love with the same woman and was planning to whisk her away from him, and he was planning to take her out west in exactly the same way Reznikoff was planning to. Reznikoff, of course, didn't believe them, and they said, well, if you want to see, she comes up and visits the site every once in a while, and they meet out just right here beside me. So they told Reznikoff to come one evening to stand here hidden and wait for them to meet. And sure enough, the lovely lady came across what was now the front campus, made her way right to this spot. There was Diabolos waiting for her. And at that point, a great fight broke out between Diabolos, who had his dagger, or sort of a hunting knife-sized knife, and Reznikoff, who had a big workman's axe. They wrestled in front of the little arcade behind me, working their way up the little arcade. Reznikoff beating on Diabolos. Diabolos was up against the door, and Reznikoff took a mighty swing at him with the construction axe. Now today, the door opens out, as all doors have to do, as exit doors. But in those days, exit doors opened in. And so the door opened in under the pressure from the two of them fighting. The axe hit the door, and to this day you can still see the axe mark on the door where Diabolos's head was almost caved in by Reznikoff's axe. He was able to get away from Reznikoff. He ran down the main hallway, went whipping up the stairs to the second floor, and waited there, thinking maybe he had left him behind, maybe it was all over, but soon he heard Reznikoff stumbling down the corridor, so he quickly beetled from the second floor up the little narrow stairway to the third floor at the base of the tower, where he waited, hidden in a corner, for Reznikoff to appear. Sure enough, Reznikoff found his way up to the third floor, at which point Diabolos attacked him with his dagger and killed him. Reznikoff is lying bleeding on the floor, and Diabolos doesn't know what to do with the body, so he dumps Reznikoff's body in the stairwell for the stair going up the tower, and his body falls down to the basement and is eventually covered with construction debris, and is not found until the 1890s, so the story goes, when the building is being reconstructed after the fire. During that period between the construction of the building, when this incident is supposed to have happened, and 1890, Reznikoff's ghost appeared a number of times to students and other people. But once the body was interred, once the remains, I should say, were interred in 1890, the ghost no longer appeared. Nothing, unfortunately, is known of Diabolos and his girlfriend, whether they got to the west, whether they got their piece of land, whether they lived happily ever after. But Reznikoff is remembered as is Diabolos, in the name of the college pubs. They are lionized forever as the great opponents among the stonemasons.